Welcome to the family with
Officer Dave.
And I'm Tracy Morgan. What's up, white people?
And I'm Andy Brambernard.
Oh my God, how are you, pal?
I'm doing great. I'm horny.
I thought you're not involved with any particular human.
Yeah, you've had Tracy Morgan on your show, right?
Oh God, yes, Beck. He's a very nice person, actually.
Incredibly nice.
Really nice person.
Just an oddball. And for years, before he really got famous on 30 Rock, whenever there was a group of comedians hanging out in New York and he was part of that group, there'd always be one guy that would look at you and go, "You ever try to talk to that guy?" Because he was such an odd bird, you know. I remember I used to write for a Weekend Update at Saturday Night Live, and my first exchange with him was seeing him on the 8th floor there and saying, "Hey, Tracy, I just wanted to say hi. My name's Craig. I'm a stand-up comedian. I write for Colin over at Weekend Update, and I think you're the funniest guy on the show." And he said, "Yeah, that's crazy." "So you a stand-up comedian?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What you doing next Friday?" And I go, "Next Friday?" "Next Friday!" And I was like, "I don't know. What am I doing next Friday?" And he goes, "You're going to open for me at the New York Comedy Club." And I was like, "Ooh, really? Oh my God." And back then I had nothing going on in my life. I had just arrived in New York. I didn't have a lot of gigs going on. So I'm planning my whole week around opening for Tracy Morgan the next Friday. I go to do that gig. I walk in. The crowd liked me. I got off stage and I was like, "Oh, that was so fun." And Tracy Morgan standing over by the bar and he goes, "Craig, what you drinking?" And I said, "Oh, can I have a Corona?" And he said, "Yeah, you can have a Corona." So how you like this? And I said, "How do I like this club?" And he said, "No, how you like stand-up comedy?" And I said, I'm head over heels in love with stand-up. And he said, "You got to be like Bruce Lee in the 6-foot kick." And I said,
Okay.
What did you say? He goes, "You don't know about Bruce Lee in the 6-foot kick? They say when Bruce Lee kick you, you go back 6 feet." That's why when people say, "Tracy, how you living?" I'm like, "I'm 6-foot kicking it." "You got a 6-foot kick your way through life. That's the way." And he physically got nose to nose with me.
Oh God.
And spit was flying out of his mouth into my eyeball. And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? I don't know." And I mentioned it to another comedian friend of mine later, Kurt Metzger, who at the time he was writing for the Chappelle Show. And he goes, "Dude, I was in a car with that guy. We're on the West Side Freeway. And I just happened to mention like, Chappelle Show got picked up for a second season. So that's pretty cool. I'll make some more money there." And he said, Tracy Morgan said, "God damn, Kurt." And he slammed the brakes and pulled the car over on the side of the West Side Highway and said, "What are we in right now, Kurt? What are we in right now?" And he said, "A car?" "No, we in show business." "We in show business." "How many letters in the word show?" And he goes, 4. "How many letters in the word business, Kurt?" And he said, 8. "Don't you forget that shit." What does that mean? I don't like, yeah.
Yeah, what did it mean?
Complete nonsense. Yeah. And I love him for that.
You know, you on the way in, we were talking before the show started, and this is a difficult subject because I am in that situation where all of these people supported me for so many years that I certainly don't want to turn my back on them and all the rest of it. But and by coincidence, I ran into a kid, and maybe you and I did talk about this a couple of days ago when you were here, but people under the age, I would say 36, 37, will not watch anything, will not listen to anything, and will not read anything that has commercials in it.
Absolutely. 3T just showed up, sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Who did?
3T.
3T's here?
I heard a door shut.
Someone's.
Who is it?
Yeah. I don't know.
Who is
I'll
it?
go ask.
All right.
Come on in.
Well, we have a cameo. It's a different ball game. The business model
What's
has
up?
changed.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Not too bad. Where are you coming in from?
I live in Denver.
Have a seat by the open computer over there.
All right.
And
But I'm at the club this weekend.
We got two guys at clubs this week.
Hey.
You know, Craig Gass.
Derrick Stroup, nice to meet
Hey,
you.
I know named Derrick Stroup.
Change the name.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I always like whenever I hear the name, I always think, is that the guy related to Stroup out of Columbus?
Everybody asks that, yeah. No.
Everybody asks
With an E or K.
So we're starting to talk about radio and how much
Derrick.
Oh, Derrick.
Derrick.
how much radio has changed. And
No
Like
doubt
that?
about it.
I think radio, the
Thank you.
way radio people have been treated, and the stories I know about radio people getting fired is brutal.
Oh, it's all the big ones. Yeah, they're all getting fired.
It is. And the way that, because the concept is you don't want the radio person to know they're being fired when they still have access to a microphone. so
that's
it's
true.
gotta be stealth.
That is
It
true.
has to be stealth. And there's stories. I mean, it's kind of similar to Seinfeld had a story about he had a recurring character on Benson back in the day, and he would fly once a week from New York to LA to shoot his scenes for Benson. And he got cut from the show and nobody told him. And he was on a flight out to LA. He gets up to the soundstage and he's looking around. There's no script with his name on it. And he's asking everybody, like, have you seen my script? And people won't look him in the eye and they're like, I don't know. And apparently at some point, someone on the stage said, Jerry, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm looking for my script. And they said, you're fired. And he said,
Oh God,
oh.
that's kind of.
And then he paused and said, well, then I'm gonna go then. And they're like, all right. And he goes, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave. And everyone goes, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna like, he was trying to assess some kind of control over a situation that he had absolutely no control over. But man,
I'm really glad you brought this up because Derrick, where are you appearing this weekend?
I am at the House of Comedy there at the Mall of America.
Mall of America.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you're based out of Denver?
Yeah, lived in Denver for about 10 years.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and you still live there now? That's,
Yeah.
Where are you
Still-
from originally?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Really? Were you there
Yeah.
before the stand-up live showed up there? or-
Yeah, I was there before. I didn't really start at the club or the local scene. I kind of started like doing my own thing, but I started before it got there. Yeah, now it's Levity Live. It just changed like 3 months ago.
Oh, I did hear that they were going to be Levity Live was going to be
Yeah,
taking over
yeah.
some of the.
I just learned that myself.
Now, Derrick, we're talking about a situation. I've been in radio for 55 years.
Oh, okay.
I started a long time ago, and we were talking about how the newspapers now are about 3 pages instead of about that. They used to be about this thick, and they're not like that anymore. Local television. Some people still watch the local news. Not everybody still watches that either.
No.
And as far as podcasting is concerned, people, how old are you?
I'm 39.
So you're probably right on the edge there, where people your age and younger will not listen to something if it has commercials in it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably right on the edge of that, but I remember newspapers really well. And
Yep.
like people right at my age, I was born in 84. So I spent most of my childhood, kind of, I guess, in the old school way, with the news. I mean, my biggest hero growing up was our meteorologist. There you go. I mean, you grow up in Alabama, and that's your hero. Everybody knew who he was. And,
Yep. Oh yeah.
And he'd come to the school and talk to us, and he'd explain how rain worked. And I thought, my God, that guy, he's going to live forever. But yeah. So yeah, I remember those times. Yeah.
It's one of those situations that, and Craig Gass is an old friend. I've known you for 20 years, longer than that, probably. A really, it has changed, but it puts people like me in a tough position because I have had some sponsors that have been with me for literally 40, 45, 50 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to turn my back on those people.
Yeah.
But the younger people will not, if you run commercials, they will not listen to your show. So it's a different era right now. I mean, are you going through this in a lot of markets but I guess I'm a different.
Well, the thing that I'm experiencing now that's been making me insane is the stations that are cannibalizing themselves
Yeah.
by saying, yeah, listen, you got some great stories. We'd love to hear about you, especially if it's a rock station. We'd love to hear about you living at Eddie Van Halen's house. We'd love to hear you about you opening for Metallica. We'd love to hear about how you have these fights with Gene Simmons. But we need money for you to come in.
Yeah.
And so if the place you're performing at is not going to spend money with us, we can't have you on. And it's like,
Oh wow. They want to be paid for appearances.
they want to be paid for appearances, and it's insane because
reverse appearance fee.
Content drives
Yes.
the commerce.
Mhm.
You're right.
And you
Right.
can't prioritize the commerce over the content. There is a station in Dallas, Texas. I was in Dallas about 2 or 3 months ago, and there's a guy who has paid a lot of money to do a 5-minute live spot every Friday during afternoon drive. I heard them say, well, it's 5:15 and it's time for Dan, the Dish Direct Man, to join us. And this guy got 5 minutes of uncensored. He got to just talk for 5 minutes about all the deals going on at Dan, the dishdirectman.com website. And I just thought,
Mhm.
how are you not thinking that everyone in traffic is turning the dial right now?
Yeah.
You're giving this guy
Yep.
5 minutes to just sales pitch.
100%.
And it's just insane because with the audience shrinking, a lot of radio stations are panicking
Oh, God,
on what to do and how to generate money. So I'm a guy who's got content. Derrick's a guy who's got content. You got to let those guys come in
Absolutely.
and create content for you, and that will create the commerce. You have to continue to build the audience, but it's not well thought out.
No, it's not at all. That's a very, very good point because, like I said, these people have been loyal to me for 40, 45, 50, some up to 55 years.
Mhm.
And if they think I'm going to turn my back on them, that ain't going to happen. But people under 35 and under, they will not listen to your show if you run commercials. They just won't do it. So it puts me in a very tough position because I am not, well, I guess it's a tough position if I'm going to do it for more than a couple more years. You know, if I do it a couple more years, then I'm really, you know, they can do whatever they want to do and good for them and all the rest of it. But it came on so quickly.
Mhm.
I mean, what'd you say, Andy, like in the last maybe year that, well, this show, as a matter of fact, one of the guys involved in the show in New York, we don't run commercials during the live part. We add the commercials later for later listeners.
Right.
So you're going to have to do 2 versions of your show. You're going to have to do one where people pay to watch it, and then you're going to have to do another one with commercials and put them out separately. That's the only, because we're right in the middle of this gap now. We got commercial, and we got non-commercial. We got paid for, we got non-paid for. You're going to have to put out 2 versions of every show, or you're going to lose a young audience. I mean, there's no question about that.
I mean, even all the popular podcasts that put out their YouTube versions of their podcasts,
Yeah.
they have commercials in there. But when you're looking at it on YouTube, you can just skip right over. You can see where it is and just skip right to the end of the commercial. But
Yeah.
Derrick, do you do a lot of radio when you're traveling around the country?
Yeah, I do. I've actually got a deal right now where every other Wednesday I call about 15 to 20 different radio stations throughout the country.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, spitfire about every 7 to 10 minutes for about 3 hours at a time. And I actually love it. I grew up loving radio just at a young age. It was something that, like, for me, I wanted to be a radio announcer, but like for sporting events and that,
Really?
I've always, I mean, I don't know if he made it into this market, into this area, but like one of my heroes growing up in comedy on the radio was a guy named Earl Pitts. And he would get on there and go, Earl Pitts, bits off. And he'd like do this segment. He's like, what makes me so sick? What makes me so disgusted? I could eat the toe jam from a fat lady's foot. And then he would just go into this rant about America that made him mad. And this was back when it was funny because there was nothing really that wrong with America. And he would just make up something, ridiculous. And it was, but I've always loved radio, and I enjoy doing it. And so anytime I get a chance to get on and talk and be around it, I love it. I really do.
Derrick is reminding me of one of the most inspiring stories I ever came across.
in the early 2000s. I was in Orlando, Florida, when I met Larry the Cable Guy. He was still a morning radio guy.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yep.
dude, that guy laid out an easy to understand plan for success. It was insane. He started calling into this rock station in Tampa.
Yeah.
The backstory is that he would call into the rock station in Tampa, and he was just a caller who had a bit that he wanted. He was a local stand-up comedian doing
Right,
open
yep.
mics, and he'd
Yep.
call in and he said, "Man, I'll tell you what, man, this whole thing is driving me crazy, man. And he just had this whole thing, and he's really funny." And they go, "Man, that's great. Hey, what's your name?" And according to the urban legend I heard, he just went, his name's Dan Whitney, but he goes,
Yeah, that's
it's Larry. And they said, "Larry what?" And he goes, Larry, the Cable Guy. And they all start laughing. They go, "Larry, can we put you on hold for a second? We're going to get your information. And we're going to, and so they put him on hold and they go, "Hey, if you ever want to call in, this is the warm line number. You can call in anytime you want." And he started calling in every week and plugging his shows. And it started to turn into like, "Man, I've had enough. I'm Larry the Cable Guy and I'm running for president."
Yeah.
And this is back when Dole was running. Bob Dole was.
Yeah, sure.
And so the radio station says, "Hey, we're going to make up T-shirts. And for every T-shirt we sell," have you heard the story?
Yeah.
We're
Absolutely.
going to give you $5 for every T-shirt we sell. They sold 5,000 T-shirts, 4,000 or 5,000 T-shirts,
Good Lord.
and they stiffed him.
Oh,
They didn't give him any money at all, and he got pissed. And he said, "Hey, you promised me money." And they said, "Well, it's a bit. And like, yeah, but you actually made money. You
Yeah.
made money." So a guy up the road in Orlando said, "I'll pay you a salary to be on my show to do that character." And when he came up there to start doing that character, he started calling radio stations all across the South
Yeah.
and saying, "Hey, my name's Dan. I do a character on a morning rock station,
Mhm.
and I write out new material about stuff that's going on in the world. It's all current events, and you don't have to pay me. I'll just call in every morning at this time and do my bit. And all I ask is I just want to come to town to do a show someday. So will you just promote it?" It's like, "Yeah, sure. I mean, it's free content. Let's do it." And he started calling every day to stations all across the South. And then he'd call local comedy club and say, "You don't know me, but I'm a regular on your local rock station. And I do a bit with them every day. And you don't have to pay me. Just give me the door. And
There you go.
I'll come
Yep.
to town and
Yep.
do it." And so he started plugging his gigs and doing these regular bits with current events and doing really topical material. And then he'd go to those towns and he would make between 15, 20 grand a weekend, drive back with a car full of cash, and then stop calling. And the radio stations would go, hey, just because you did your gig, doesn't mean you don't have to come on the air with us. I mean, our audience loves you. And he'd say, "Well, you got to pay me."
Yeah, that's right.
There you
It
go.
was brilliant.
Yeah.
And
There
he
you go.
he was already really successful in crushing it before he actually got on the blue collar comedy tour.
Mhm.
He has
Yeah.
amazing work ethic that makes so much sense. So when I hear Derrick say that, it's like, Derrick's got the plan.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
No, he definitely he used radio. He leveraged it the right way.
He
A few of
did.
those guys, Rodney Carrington, a lot of those guys back
Yeah.
in the day
Mhm.
came up on radio. I enjoyed it. I grew up. My old man was one of those guys that in different parts of the house, the radio was always running. You go to the detached garage, the radio
Yeah.
was still on. You go to the sunroom, the radio was still on. And so I grew up definitely around, those classic rock stations that have those zany characters that would come on there. 107.9. Next, we got a trashy Tim gonna, back in the day, it was the best.
Oh yeah.
By the way, Colin Quinn has the best story. I ran into Colin Quinn in New York once and told him I was about to see Larry the Cable Guy. And he goes, Are you going to talk to him? And I go, yeah. He's actually really nice to me. I've known him since he used to do morning
Great
radio.
guy.
And Colin Quinn goes, when you see him, can you do me a favor? Can you please apologize to him for me? And I said, what did you do? And he said, 20 years ago, before that guy was famous, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia at the Punchline. And this guy walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, Colin, my name's Dan. I'm a stand-up comedian. Do you mind watching my set and tell me what you think about it?" And he goes, yeah, sure. And he goes, Dan Whitney goes on stage, does his whole thing, walks off stage. He goes, I walk up to him and I go, "You're funny. That, what's that thing you did in the middle? What do you call that? Larry the Cable Guy?" I'd leave that alone. He goes, Craig, I almost took $1 billion out of this guy's pocket. He goes, I almost robbed him of $1 billion. It's the worst advice I've ever given anyone in my life. I almost had him take that $1 billion and just leave it on the table. God. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a good Colin Quinn impression too. You really put his voice right in the pocket. That was a good one.
Oh, wait till Craig gets into it.
Yeah, he got a few voices he could do. No, you know what's so interesting about that? Those very same guys you're talking about, when they all got together, what was it called again? The Blue Collar Comedy Tour?
Yeah.
The very first one?
Yeah.
They came into town and they were booked to do one show. They came years ago when I was on local radio here. We had the highest rated morning show in America. We had a 40 share.
Oh, wow.
In Minneapolis, St. Paul. We just blowing everybody out. It was unbelievable. And those guys came to town. They had one show booked. They came on the show 2 days in a row. And by the time they were done, I think they ended up doing like 12 shows.
Whoa.
Because so many people called to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen on radio anymore. It just doesn't happen. You have an older, listenership still to radio.
Yep.
There are some younger people that listen, but it literally now, like I said, I was really glad that Craig brought this up because it's something I've been kind of worried about. And that's why, again, this live version of the show is commercial free. But when it's posted, it has commercials in it.
Yeah, that's right.
And you look at the demos in the thing, this show has younger listeners. And the other show has all the older listeners because older people are used to it, so they will still tune in and listen because that's what it's always been about. No question about it. But I guess local TV news is not doing very well in any market anymore because they have commercials. And the national news, if it's got commercials, people don't watch that either. And I'm talking about people basically your age and younger.
Yeah.
They just don't do it. They will not. So I don't know how you're going to support a business. Now, let's say you open up a, 5 restaurants in town or whatever, and you want people to know about it. How are you going to get that done for people under the age of 40 because they don't want to hear your commercial?
Well, you still advertise, but you don't do scripted ad breaks. It has to flow more naturally. Like, okay, so
yeah, that's a
let's
good
say,
that's a good
there's
point,
like,
Andy.
Jim's Pizza opens up and they want to advertise with us. So we'd be talking. We'd be like, okay, so Derrick, that's very interesting. You're into comedy. You ever try Jim's Pizza over there on?
So you got to do it that way.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense.
But see, Tom, that was you were doing that. You were just yourself on the air.
Yeah, we're doing.
You
that.
never had a crazy persona or anything like that.
No.
You just here's my BS, and
I was kind of a prick. That's what you were saying.
Pretty much. Pretty much. But I've been listening to you since '87, so
There's
you must be doing something right.
So have I.
in podcast.
My son just said that, Derrick, by the way.
By the way,
My
his
behind
son, Tom, is you could ask him about any great comedian that you grew up watching. They've all not only been on his show, they've been to his house. And his son has probably had Sam Kinison do coke off his forehead when he was a baby. That normal looking guy has had the most insane individuals around him in his childhood.
I don't want to
life,
brag,
buddy.
but I am pretty normal.
Yeah.
If
And
if you like Sam Kinison, then you probably like my comedy. Then
Is that right?
Oh God!
yeah, I'm
Wonderful.
real ranty and get real upset. Yeah.
What are you upset about today, Derrick?
Well, I mean, lately I've just been. I did a whole hour that I just released on hipsters, and I mean, I scorched them. I mean, I really put them in a headlock. But I rant about everyday stuff. It's kind of my style on stage. It's a slow build, but it's kind of a Sam Kinison meets Ron White. It's still got the southern,
Oh my
the
God.
southern stories and such, but I get really worked up, and then that's a natural thing. I don't force that. It kind of boils under my skin, right under there. I mean, I told a lady yesterday in TSA that she didn't know. I gave her my thoughts. Told her I was there more than she was. I don't know if that's true. But,
I've had those conversations.
she was botching the job here. She did. Priority was backed up 60 people. The people that were flying for the first time were just rolling through, and I had to tell her she had her job backwards. But but anyways, yeah, I'm a big fan of Sam Kinison. You know, however we brought him up, whether it was at a party at Tom's house or not. But
yeah, I love hearing stories about Sam. There was I did a show in Canada earlier this year, and there was some comedian who told me about an open mic they were at when apparently Sam spent a lot of time. Was it Toronto? I guess, and they had this great story about an open mic where Sam went up and he was talking about. He goes, "I've been dating this girl, and you know, she's a nice girl. You know, she's got a little bit of a weight problem." And someone in the front row goes, "How fat is she?"
Oh God!
And Sam goes, "Jesus, she has a gland problem. You insensitive fuck!" Oh, yeah, just like destroyed him. But
That's so
his mind was just so fertile with paranoia that it just made him brilliant. You know, he was like his family said that his personality changed after he was hit by a truck as a child.
Right?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
But, I guess Roseanne had the same thing happen. She was hit by
Really?
a car. Yeah.
Why didn't I get hit by a car?
We figured out the baseball bat.
Yeah, that was a baseball.
The baseball bat.
Oh, that's true. When I was 11 years old, I grew up in a neighborhood, Derrick, that was a little sketchy,
Yeah.
a very, very dangerous neighborhood, right? And I got hit in the head with a bat when I was 11 years old, and I still have you can still feel the cracks in the side of my head.
Oh, really?
And after that, and he's right about that. After that, I said, I want to entertain people. And I was interested in doing radio from literally that day. So what the hell happens to your brain? Because I've been doing this now, like I said, 55 years. Oh, I got to tell you one thing, though, Derrick, and we got to get into this at some point.
Yeah.
Because Craig is an old friend of mine, thank God. But we had a guy's on the show. I think he's going to call in today, as a matter of fact. I hope so. But he called in, and I told him that Christopher Walken was in studio, and would you like to talk to Christopher Walken about this? And the great thing about it is that he, until I told him later that day, thought that he was actually here doing the show. It was, see, that's the part of
Radio
yeah. that I love. And, you know, if we can keep that up, that'll be wonderful. We got to get through this period, though, because older people will listen to commercials, younger people will not. You're going to have to offer both sides of it. Otherwise, and again, loyalty to advertisers who've been loyal to you for decades. You can't just turn your back on these people and go, well, I just do, you know, they can just send in $15 a month or whatever the hell these people. Adam Carolla is really involved in that. Now, I get a lot of messages from Adam Carolla every week. I at least get a few a day.
Really?
To subscribe to his show now, because he's getting away from running commercials completely.
Wow.
You know, but I just can't do that to all these people that have been with me for so long now. I just can't just go, well, we're not going to run your commercials anymore. They've been supporting me my whole life.
Yeah.
Well, you need to be more creative with it. That's all.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got to do. Yeah. Oh, like he just stabbed me in the back. Did you hear that?
He just stabbed you right square in
creative.
the heart.
I'm saying you can keep doing it. You can keep doing it. You can just find a way to just get creative.
Well, that's what we're trying to work on right now. But you know, it's interesting you bring that up, and you guys brought it up. At first, he hit by a car, hit in the head by a bat. I wonder what the hell happens to your brain. You go, oh no, I don't want to be a mechanic. I want to be involved in entertaining people.
Maybe it's because you start dropping wrenches a lot.
Yeah, maybe.
His mind was very interesting, and he just went to places that a guy, someone at the Comedy Store gave me a cassette of Sam. What was that guy's name? He was best friends with Bill Hicks. They
oh god, yeah.
They grew up together. There was they were all part of the Outlaws of Comedy, and this cassette. Sam had a bit I had never heard before where he was talking about Nostradamus, and he said, he goes, folks, I've been reading a lot about this guy, Nostradamus. This guy is very fascinating. This is a guy who was able to predict major world wars from hundreds of years ago. And he even predicted the rise of Hitler, and he almost named the fucking guy. Which, if you know anything about the work of Nostradamus, people who study his work say that he predicted that there was a man who would rise out of the East that was the great hister. And the great hister would cause more bloodshed than anybody else before him. And people say, man, the time frame, but it's Hitler. But he called him hister or whatever. And Sam had this bit where he said, he goes, and I'm reading this. I'm very fascinated. I go, well, wait a second. Wait a second. What if history hasn't shown up yet?
Oh,
what if this is the guy that's going to make Hitler look like a pussy? Oh! Oh! Like it was so over the top, like paranoia.
Golly.
Like, oh, it was so strong.
yeah, he did do that. By the way, it was Napoleon. There were 3 of them, and Hister was the third.
Right.
He predicted Napoleon, and who was the other one? There were 3 of them in a row, and Hister was the third.
God,
I cannot remember. He tried to take over the world.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the
You're
Great?
probably right. Yeah.
I'm curious when Derrick talks about getting into rants. I want to know if Derrick, how often you end up battling with someone who disagrees with you in the audience.
They never say anything during the rant. I'm pretty downhill, and I would like to think some of the where I really play with some of the magic is that I don't rant about anything that is that anybody cares about. I lose my mind over things that don't matter.
Really?
And so it's never like a soapbox or like something super political. It's going to be something that doesn't really matter. Like a rant I went on last night is just about how different people eat ice cream. Like I whittle my ice cream. I don't dig. I don't dig into it. I whittle. And my fiance, she digs, and she should be tagged by the government. I mean, when she hands me the ice cream back, she has ruined the entire project for one chocolate-covered peanut, and it makes me want to leave her. I mean, I whittle. I whittle. I want it to be smooth. I've got something going on, you know, and I ended up just losing my mind about that for several minutes. And then you look around and people are sometimes into it and people are sometimes wondering what's going on, you know, and that's fun about rants, you know. It's from a natural place.
I want to be friends with Derrick now.
You know what's interesting? Andy, did you know that Derrick was coming in?
I did not.
I didn't either.
That's
Nobody called and told me you were coming in.
A blast.
I wanted, hey, can I tell y'all, I wanted to address that immediately. Yes, to the viewers and everybody. I do this enough to where I'm sitting in a room where nobody knew I was going to be here.
No.
But you guys handled it perfect. He came up, he goes, what's your name? Perfect. We'll get you in the system. Here's a microphone. So I want the viewers, the questions they're asking me aren't like, we're not doing a dance. They're trying to know who I am. They're trying to figure out who's in studio, which is great.
It's Derrick Stroup. He's performing this weekend at
That's right. At the House of Comedy at Mall of America, Rick Bronson's House of Comedy. 5 shows left this weekend. We had the first one last night. Thanks to all 54 that came out.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Dude, it was a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Calm down. It'll be good. It'll be
And
good.
I'm in New Hope at New Hope Cinemas this weekend, tonight and tomorrow. We got 3 shows left, and
Nice.
but yeah, I love stand up, dude. I'm just I'm still so head over heels in love with stand up, and I just I enjoy every aspect of it. Not just for me, the greatest joy has been all the countless hours of hanging out with other comedians and discussing stand-up and analyzing all the weird people in stand-up. We all have similar experiences with the same comedy club owners, the good ones and the bad ones.
That's right.
And the characters that are out there, I just love it. And
there's probably not a profession that brings together so many different types of people. You know, I mean, my background, I'm an old jock. And there's not that many in comedy. I find there's not that many old like sports guys. Like I didn't come up like liking wrestling or comic books or theater or anything. I liked football, basketball, and baseball. And I became funny joking around like in locker rooms with the buddies I grew up with in the neighborhoods. And that's not exact. And everybody's story in comedy is so different. There's so many I love being a guy from Alabama. I just get to meet all these different people from different parts of the country, and everybody's funny in their own way. And it's the best when they're funny in their own voice and like who they are, and just they use stage as a form of expression. So I'm in love with comedy too, man. It's a wild ride.
We can't lose it.
By the way,
lose
I want to point out something about Derrick that you can see right now on your monitor. Derrick is standing. That great voice that you're hearing, that very rich voice that you're hearing from Derrick, he is 10 feet away from the microphone. And you can see it right on his screen.
I'm looking at the board and I'm surprised how well it's getting picked up.
He just has a great, strong voice. You'll see me and all of us are right in front of our mics.
Right.
He is 10 feet away from his mic. You can see on the camera.
That's
right
a good point.
Yeah.
I did realize it is about a foot in front of my face.
That's a long foot.
Yeah. That's right.
That's a very long.
Yeah.
But Derrick, what's so great about it is I could tell by the look on your face when you walked in, you realized we didn't even know you were coming.
No.
I got to believe most places you walk in the studio and you think they don't even know. It's a disaster.
Yeah, that's right.
It would be a disaster, but
You guys just plugged me right in, man.
because we love it. And I mean, all of us love it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Comedy,
impressive.
We have got to keep stand-up comedy alive and well, because without it, I don't know where the hell the world's going to be.
No, you're right. No, I did want to mention earlier with you talking about attention spans. That definitely bleeds into comedy big time.
Oh,
Absolutely.
God.
I mean, in 15 years, a comedy special is going to be 9 minutes.
Right.
I mean,
it's a great point.
You're right.
It's
You're
getting
right.
like, I mean, I release a clip every Thursday, and my clips right now are like in between like 24 and 35 seconds because that's what people want.
Yep.
Anything longer, it doesn't matter. It's not quality, which is what's terrifying. You can be you can be doing the greatest bit of all time. When we hit a minute, they're out.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how good. So that's what it's bleeding into comedy big time as well.
I remember I started with a radio guy named Bob Rivers. That was my first gig.
Sure, yeah.
Bob Rivers would make these song parodies. His song parodies were so popular they would actually chart
Out of Seattle.
Out of Seattle.
Absolutely,
And
Bob.
Can't tell he's from Seattle. Can you? The hat.
Yeah.
Well, his
Well,
son,
I'm from New York, but I'm a Seattle sport because my career started in Seattle. But you were going to say his son
but
is
his son's doing the business now, right?
doing stand-up comedy.
Absolutely, he's a great kid too.
Yeah, and I remember Bob telling me back in the day, and it always stuck with me when we do these song parodies. He said, if it's funny, it should be handled in under 2 minutes, and if it's over 2 minutes, you've overkilled it.
Yeah.
Keep all your comedy under 2 minutes, and now it is way less than that.
It is
with comedy clips. And then the other thing that Derrick said that really, really gets to me is how many friends of mine are like, it's not quality. It's quantity. It's
That's
quantity.
right.
You have to have quantity out there. That's what builds your audience. Quality doesn't. A guy that I started out with, Josh Wolf, I started at an open mic in Seattle 30 years ago. And the guys it was me and a guy named Brody Stevens, who's no longer with us, Josh Wolf, and Joey Diaz. We all started at the same.
I miss Joey. I haven't seen Joey in a while.
Yeah. That's usually a sentence after we hear he's been sentenced again. You know? But
back in prison.
I miss that guy. But
Circle back to my line of work here all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
Josh Wolf and I both live in Vegas, and we both have residencies at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club. And Josh said, he goes, remember when we were first starting out and it was about quality, getting the best quality jokes? And I went, no. And he's like, well, anyways, it's never about quality for me. It was just about trying to get free drinks and cocaine, but he was like, well, now it's about quantity. And he didn't even notice that I didn't agree with him at that first thought as the premise for the rest of the story. But yeah, it is about just putting out content. And it doesn't matter what the quality of the material is, but it's a completely different ball game. It's a different business model. And now people are getting famous without a stand-up set, and they can travel around. And thank God the majority of the comedy clubs will not put them in on the weekends. They'll put them in on an off night where the people buying tickets are clearly buying tickets just to see this person. And some of those people I've heard won't even do an actual set. They'll go on stage and do a Q&A and then meet everybody for $100 a ticket, and they'll take pictures with people.
Really?
Good Lord.
It's crazy. It's
a bank heist.
It's really crazy. I am curious to see if Derrick was to ask Tom about a favorite comedian of his and hear what Tom's memory of that person is. Do you have any favorite comedians you'd like to ask Tom if he knew?
What about John? Did you know John? How do you say it? Panette? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here's the deal. I can explain something to you. When I started in radio all those years ago, and then I like I said, I took over this morning show about 40 years ago now, and I do remember I said to the program director, man, we got to get some comedians on the air. He said, no, they don't do. Nobody does comedian. Literally 45 years ago, nobody would have comedians on their radio show. They just wouldn't do it. You know, if Bob Hope came in, but that's because he was an actor, not a comedian. So I said, why don't you have comedians on? I mean, you guys are missing out. One of the reasons my show got so huge is because I did have comedians on, and it took a bitch of a time to get through. They finally said, okay, why don't we give it a try and see if it even works? Well, the show just blew up because it's like today.
Yeah.
Now, you guys, you've heard of each other, but you've never met before.
No, never met.
Seems to me like you guys have been friends for like 10 years.
Yeah, that's how comics are.
That's how comics are. That's exactly right. So for me, I did it because I was lazy. I just turned it over to you guys.
It's content.
It's content. I mean, that's the whole deal. The content deal is it's everything.
What are your memories of John Panette?
Oh God, it all depends on. No, John's not around anymore. Yeah, see, that's the.
Which was shocking. Like the reason why he died was so shocking to me. I remember once going to Caroline's to. I was doing sets in New York. And then I knew that John Panette had a late show, and I was going to try to catch part of his show. And I walked in, and somebody at the club said, hey, did you want to do some time tonight? And I go, sure. How much you want me to do? And he said, can you do 45? And I said, 45?
What? You mean, can I do the show?
I go, what? And they said, well, John's not coming out. And I said, oh no, is he sick? And they said, well, they're taking him to rehab. And I said, oh, for what? And they said, cocaine. And I went, John Panette is on cocaine? What the hell? And then you find out that he really, oh my God, the darkness.
And that's what we're talking about.
That existed in his life did not bleed through his stand-up. His stand-up was so sunshiny. Like you could bring families. He was a family act.
But the thing is, when you asked me that, did you notice the tone of my voice?
Yeah.
Because I actually knew John, and John would not like that off the air. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
he was. You could tell he'd been through hell.
Really?
Absolutely, no question about it.
I can't. It's so crazy to me because usually it matches up. What you see on stage matches up to what you see.
In
off
most
stage.
cases.
Yeah.
But not his, and actually, you've been talking about him all morning, but your boy with the beret was the same way off the air. He just, it's a very, very, he talked to God when he died. That was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Derrick?
No, I didn't. But I mean, I knew he had a very religious background.
He did. He was a preacher.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
was a comedian. But when he died in that car accident, he was talking to God, or God was talking to him, I guess, from what the people that were there. He kept, but I don't want to. And he's talking to nobody, but obviously he
clearly
is
talking to somebody.
He's hearing somebody.
He's hearing somebody.
And answering somebody.
Yeah, but I don't want to come there yet. And he just kept saying things like that.
Golly.
And then he finally said, oh, okay, I guess I'll come. And he died. It was like, holy Christ.
That is intense.
It really is intense. There's no question about it.
I'm going to try to find this.
I mean, for me, I brought up John. I wanted to bring up somebody I knew would be a little different, not one of the big mainstream guys. And I just I do it a little bit on stage, but he was a food comic. I mean, and I feel comfortable saying, I mean, most of his bits were about eating and his love for food. And I can't tell you how relatable that is for me. I mean, I've watched John Panette and then gone to a Chinese buffet
just because John brought it up
right after.
Can I play Carl LeBeau, who was holding Sam in his arms?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Can I play this for you?
Oh, I would love to hear it.
Okay, here we go. Come on. Oh, wait, hold on.
Well, it's a good thing he's not an engineer, ladies and
no
gentlemen.
doubt.
All right, I got this clip. This is from the documentary on Showtime about the Comedy Store. And they had Carl explain that moment with Sam. Oh my God, this thing is not starting. Hold on a second.
Andy,
Do,
can you
do,
come
Try one more
do,
thing.
do, do,
Yeah, hold on. Here we go. Oh, come on.
By the way, Derek, this is usually how the show goes, and I love it.
Yeah. No, it's
It's
great.
just real. It's real.
It
What
is
kind of
real.
phone have you got?
Yeah, it's not like, hey, Derek, come on in and do your bits. No,
No,
that's not
no,
how this
no.
show is at all.
Carl is such a great storyteller, too.
Is this something you could email me? Maybe I could play it.
Oh,
through
here we
email.
go.
Oh, okay.
It's gone.
Laughlin, Nevada, and I remember we had a van and his sports car, and he was driving with Malika, his wife, and it was a 2-lane highway on the road to Laughlin. And the others followed in a van, and the kid tried to go around the 18-wheeler and thought he could make it. And then our van stomped the brakes, and then I heard like 2 trains hit. That's what it sounded like. And in slow motion, I fell into the floorboard of a skidding van that had stomped its brakes. And when I got out of the right side of this van and went toward the car, I saw that the hood of the sports car was crushed up and there was smoke coming up in the air. And then there was a pickup truck with 3 indentations in the window where the 3 boys that were in that truck had smashed their heads against the glass and left marks. And when I got to the car, Sam's body was laying across the middle. And that's when I noticed that just the steering column was there. He had taken out the steering wheel with his chest and he had hit into the windshield. So he had a little blood on his forehead, a little blood out of his nose. And he was just taking deep breaths. And I said, "Don't move, buddy, don't move." And then he forced himself out of the car and landed on me. And I fell to protect him. And I was on my butt. And he was laid across my arms, and he was looking up, and he started talking to whoever was there that he saw, and he was going, "I don't want to die. I don't want to die now." And I said, "You're not going to die, man. I got you." And then it dawned on me that he wasn't there, that he was seeing somebody. He goes, "I don't want to die now. But why now?" Oh. He just took off. And his eyes shut, and I felt him go right through my face. When it wasn't until someone came up and shook me and said, "How's he doing?" And then I realized that he's gone. He's gone. And after that, then time turned back into time. It was normal. The car noises, everything quit. And I laid him down, and just as I did, the ambulance pulled up, and I went around the car to get his wife, and she woke up at that point screaming, "He's gone, isn't he? He's gone." She wouldn't even wait for any of that stuff. I think in that moment, even though I haven't admitted it in many years, I think I forgave him of all the things he did to me. I found out he fathered my daughter after he was dead. So he was having an affair behind my back with my wife. And I knew he was doing it with other people, but I didn't think he was going to fuck me over. And he did. Not only did he fuck me over, he fucked my ex-wife over, because I'm sure he had promises with her. And he didn't keep them. And he has a little girl out there in the world that he never got to know. He lost all that because of drugs and booze and whatever else was in his head. I'm lucky I got here. I got to learn how to forgive myself of all things. I got to make things right.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
Just $40.
It's an amazing
Oh, God.
That'll be $40.
That'll be a comedian right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Carl LeBeau, one of the greatest comedians ever, a total powerhouse. But that story was always just, whoa.
That is something else.
All right, so Derrick, make us laugh.
Tell you what. How old was he?
He was
Carl,
not old.
No.
Oh, Sam?
Yeah.
gosh, I mean, that was 25, 30 years ago.
He
So
was 38.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was 25, 30 years ago.
it was 30
It
years
was
ago. Yeah,
32
I know
years
we
ago.
just
32 years ago.
30, because I remember the 30-year
Jesus.
anniversary doing something on the air for his 30-year anniversary.
I was only 3.
Yeah,
Nobody's buying that bullshit. But
yeah.
that's the part of comedy that I'm talking about right there. That's why I said to people 55 years ago, we got to start having comedians on because they tell the truth. They've experienced it all. People become comedians because something happened to them.
Mhm.
That's right.
And people don't realize that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But that's what's important to me is you guys have been through some stuff nobody else has been through. You don't all of a sudden discover one day, oh, I'm funny. That's not how it works. That's how people think it works.
Yeah.
That's why some people aren't funny, because they practice to be funny. You either are or you aren't. There's no question. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't teach it. I don't think I've always been wary of anybody who said, I'm going to sign up for a comedy class. Like, you're going to learn from a guy who didn't make it how to do stand-up comedy. You're going to pick up all the things that made him not make it. Like Chappelle's not going to teach a comedy class. Dave Attell's not going to teach a comedy class.
No.
You just need to marinate yourself in stand-up comedy and figure out what direction you're going and who you are and what makes you different from everybody else in this room. And it's just fascinating to me, all these dysfunctional people that have ended up in your life that we've, guys like me and Derrick, loved and admired, and you have these personal stories with them. Do you have all those interviews? Like, do you have
they're
access?
all around. Yeah. They're all out there. I just, Derrick, a couple days ago, Greg came in the studio. We have a guy named Josh Arnold who does a financial report on the show, a couple of days a week. And I asked Craig, would you please interview him as Christopher Walken? And we're not going to tell him you're not Christopher Walken. That show was 100% grand slam home run because Josh was convinced that he was talking to Christopher Walken. How did you start the conversation? Because it was a brilliant start.
I told him that I said that I'm hoping to get the gig this weekend to open for Craig Gass at New Hope Cinemas. It's cinemagrill.com, by the way. I used it as a vehicle to make plugs for the show. And so I've always been able to do voices. I'm a voice guy, and it's something that I avoided doing when I first started doing stand-up, because I heard how comics would be like, oh, this guy's doing a person. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to do that. But I always had that ability because I grew up in a deaf family. Everyone in my family is deaf.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing, Derrick?
I learned how to, which, by the way, I love telling the story that I just opened for the band Pantera last week.
I saw the pictures, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Pantera had to put out, the band Pantera had to put out a statement yesterday about what I did. I've opened for Metallica. I've opened for System of a Down, Motley Crue. And but when I did the Metallica gig, the drummer of Metallica was the guy who got me the gig, and he introduced me to the rest of his band by saying, "Hey man, this is Craig. This is the guy who does all the voices, and check it out. His whole family is retarded." Well, they're not retarded. They're fucking deaf, dude. What are you talking about? You're fucking up my whole story. What are you talking about? But growing up in a deaf family, I couldn't learn how to talk for my family. I learned how to talk by watching TV and copying all the voices I heard on TV. So I've always had an ability to like hear things and mimic it. And so which led to radio and voiceover stuff. And so those moments where you can pretend to be, I mean, God, I've called people, Paul Stanley from Kiss gave me his phone number. And you ever have famous people give you their phone number, and then I could ask both of you this, and you occasionally will scroll through your phone, you'll see that number, and you'll go, what am I going to call that guy about? Do you ever?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I think, oh my God, what if I accidentally called him?
Right.
Oh
I've thought that too.
God.
But the only famous person to give me their phone number that I actually called, and it was because I was jacked up on espresso the next morning and really feeling myself, was Paul Stanley. The singer of Kiss gave me his phone number, and the next day I was like, he was so nice to me. I'm going to give him a call right now. And he picked up the phone and went, hello. And I said, hi, Paul, this is Gene Simmons from Kiss. And he went, okay. And I started selling him Kiss products. And then I backed up and said, hey, sorry, Paul, it's Craig Gass, the comedian. I just want to say thank you for being nice to me and my friends last night. And he said, I was going to say, you're starting to sound like that dumb comedian. And I went, and then hearing his voice, I just got so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Paul Stanley. I was like, all right, well, I got to take a shit. Bye. Click. But yeah, doing prank calls, it's my favorite thing to do is to, oh man, there's a guy, I think I can say this here. How am I going to, there's a guy in Las Vegas. The first time I ever did the Rock Station in Las Vegas, KOMP is the rock station, and they had me on the morning show, and I started doing impressions, and they were like, "Man, we gotta prank call. Who can we prank call? We got to use your voices to prank call people." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you this: if you have Al Pacino, if they hear Al Pacino on the phone, I'll bet you we can get the governor of Nevada to pick up the phone." And they said, "No, not Al Pacino. We want to do one of your rock and roll voices, like your Metallica, or like who can we call?" And they decide, "Oh, we're going to call." He's a really well-known local guy in Las Vegas who is rich. He's got his own private plane, and he loves 80s rock bands. He's always lending his private plane to 80s rock bands like Dokken and Rat and Kiss. He's always giving his plane to the guys from Kiss. And I said, "Oh, all right, I got it. Let's do it." They go, "Yeah, you want to do it?" And I go, "Yeah, I already got the premise. Let's call him." And they go, "All right." And by the way, anybody listening, if you're friends with this guy, don't tell him we're calling, okay? We want this to be clean.
Yeah.
And this is a guy
Don't give it away.
who owns a very well-known local business in Las Vegas. The guy picks up the phone, and I don't even say my full name. I just go, "Chuck, it's Gene." And he goes, "Hey, buddy." It's 8 o'clock in the morning. And he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Chuck, I'm in trouble. Last night, I was with a beautiful girl. She was tiny, small frame, Filipino girl. And bottom line is, I crushed her. She's dead." And the next words out of that guy's mouth was, "What do you need me to do?" Live on the radio, he said that. And I said, "Chuck, I need where's the plane?" And he said, "The plane? The plane? Where's the plane?" He goes, "My plane? It's here." And "I need the plane." And he goes, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Over the ocean." And he goes, "Over the ocean?" I said, "Yeah. Does the plane have an ejector seat?" Everyone starts laughing, and they go, "Chuck, you're on KOMP radio." And he went, you guys. But he said it on the air. Live on the air. He said, "What do you need me to do?" I told him I killed a woman last night. Oh, God. I love doing pranks like that. That is absolutely so. It's like, I mean, when I was in high school, it was like I would learn how to do our parents' voices in high school, so I could call everybody up. While we were doing coke, and I'd go, "Yeah, Jimmy and Derrick are with us, and we're gonna have a pizza party, and I'll bring them back over to the house tomorrow." Like, "Okay, thank you." Click. "All right, game on."
Wow.
And it was a nice little party trick. But I want to hear more stories from Derrick. I want to hear. Derrick has such a defined personality and a strong personality. I want to hear about how you've handled stress from comedy club owners. Like, is there any comedy club owners that have tried to stiff you?
Oh, of course.
That have led to uncomfortable conversations, or?
No, not any uncomfortable conversations yet. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got some people that have those conversations for me, but I've definitely had, you have people that try to take advantage of you. And it takes some learning. It's not something for me. I didn't come into comedy like business savvy or anything like that, or tech savvy. When I first started comedy 13 years ago, I thought you just had to be funny. I didn't. I had
there you go.
I had no idea that there were so many other things and hoops and stuff you had to jump through. But no wild conversations. Like, some of my buddies, some of the older comics from back in the day, 90s, early 2000s, 80s, even talk about some of the conversation, talking about having basically shake down club owners to get their money. Yeah. I don't have any of those stories. It's ran a little tighter now. I think the communication's better among people and the clubs. And if somebody's, a shitty person, it gets out. Now,
oh yeah, everybody knows about it.
Back in the day, I think the word just traveled a little slower, and you could get away with more. Now there's just more clubs and more opportunities. You can say no. We're in a comedy boom. You can say no more now than ever than in comedy. So, I
can say this here because it's not an issue that would happen that I'd be afraid of somebody getting back to. But whenever I think there's going to be an issue with money, I'm a one-man show. We're one-man shows on the road. Right. And when you say I have people that make those phone calls for me, you're talking about your agents and stuff like that. I'm not even working with an agent right now. The only thing I have when I think I'm getting into a weird spot is psychology. will always, if I think I'm working with a guy who's going to stiff me or try to shortchange me at the end of the week, if I feel like our conversations are going in a direction where I'm like, oh shit, this guy's trying to pull a fast one on me, all I will do is I'll wait for them to bring it up. Every comedy club owner will bring this up at some point. They'll go, man, I love your work ethic. I wish more comedians had your work ethic, because I'll come into town the Sunday before the show and I'll do every radio format in town.
Yeah.
I'll be a different guest on country. I'll talk about my relationships with Brooks and Dunn. We did a TV show together. Kenny Chesney had me record stuff for a stadium tour. Top 40 stations. I'll talk about embarrassing run-ins I've had with Justin Bieber and the Kardashians. Rock stations are where I live. That's where my best stories are at. But also sports. I go to the Super Bowl every year and I interview the players. And I've had viral moments with NFL players. And the comedy club owner will always at some point go, man, I can't believe how much you work, man. I wish more people were like you, got into town, got up every morning to be on the air all day. And I'll go, yeah. Did I tell you about Monday? What's happening on Monday? And they go, no. And I go, yeah, Monday. Monday, I'm calling into every radio station on Monday before I leave. I'm going to be on the air with every station in town on Monday and just talk about what it was like working with you. So
that is great.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I'm just gonna
a little accountability call.
I'm just gonna just like a wrap up. I'm just gonna talk about how much fun I had and what it was like working with you. Monday I'm gonna be on every station, and they're like, oh, okay. And then when it comes time to get paid, they go, all right, man. So here's what we agreed to, and I'll go, yeah, that's it. Thanks, buddy. And then I'm not even awake on Monday morning. I'm fly out. That's all I have is psychology.
That's
see, you get psychology. I get the other end. I used to work for this guy. He said, this guy out in Fargo hasn't paid me for a job I did.
Mm-hmm.
He says, go up, fill your truck up with gas and drive to Fargo. Tell this guy to pay me and come back. Fill your truck up again.
Mm.
So I jumped in my truck. I drove to Fargo. I said, Bob needs his check. I will put it in the mail today. I promise. I got that check wasn't in the mail.
I believe it.
It's like I didn't have to get too violent, but it was
somebody
like,
was scared of you.
imagine,
Like you.
I can't figure it out.
Candy ass like you. They're afraid.
He's a police officer.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That checks out.
That's it right there.
Yeah, that checks out.
My question to you, I just have one question, and I ask this of anybody I know who's a police officer. What is the funniest lie you've ever been told?
Oh, God.
While talking to somebody to ask about what's going on off the top of your head?
Funniest lie.
You hear a lot of the same things. A lot of officers will tell you they'll find drugs on somebody in their pockets. And the person will say, they're not my pants.
Oh.
They're not my pants.
They're not my pants.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
I can actually point to one episode of Cops where I can say, that is the hardest I've ever laughed in my life. And I can say that because I had a physical reaction that I didn't even know was possible. It opens up with an officer driving in his car, and he says, we're responding to a domestic that apparently took place in this field over here. So it's already hilarious. They can't afford a house to fight in. They're fighting in the field.
Can't afford a house to fight in.
Yeah, there you go.
Cop pulls over, gets out his flashlight, and he goes, hey, what's going on over there? And you walk up. There's a middle-aged black couple that's up ahead. The woman turns around. Her mouth is covered in blood.
Ooh.
Bottom row of teeth are missing. Top row of teeth are cracked. This guy clearly just assaulted this woman. And the officer said, what's going on here? The woman turns around and starts telling exactly what's going on. When the guy jumps in on camera and goes, wait, hold up. You better tell him the truth. I will knock you the fuck out. He says, on camera, he says that. And the officer goes, whoa, here, ma'am.
Easy, man.
Ma'am, you sit on the hood of my car. All right, sir. You're so eager to tell me your side of the story. What's going on here? And the guy goes,
Look, I ain't gonna lie, okay? Because I push her. So what? I push her. But then she assaulted me.
and the cop said, she assaulted you? And he goes, she assaulted me. And the cop said, with what? And he goes, her face, and I farted. I laughed so hard, I farted. I didn't even know it was possible to laugh so hard that you could actually push farts out your body.
That is hysterical.
It was the healthiest laugh I've ever had in my life. So my question to you, sir, as a police officer, what is the funniest lie you've ever been told?
I hooked this guy for DWI one night, and I had stopped him a couple of months before. Found some weed in his truck, and just wrote him the tags. No big deal.
You remembered him?
I remembered him. Yep. But I didn't recognize him until I pulled him out of the car to do field sobrieties on him, right? So it's like, I get him over there, and I says, "What did you even stop me for?" I says, "Your taillight's out." "Oh, you kicked that taillight out." I'm like,
"Oh, no."
I'm like, "I didn't kick your taillight out, man." So the whole time he's like, just one-liner after one-liner, trying to talk his way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there, and here's me, 6'4", 300 pounds, before I put any of the crap on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just laughing, and I'm having a good time arresting this guy because it's just hilarious.
That's nice.
I get him in, and I run him through all the field testing stuff, and he calls his attorney. And I'm the type that I would type what they say to their attorney. I can't use it in court because it's inadmissible. It's lawyer-client privilege.
Yeah, attorney-client privilege.
So it's like, but I'm still typing it because this is still, it can go in my report. It just can't be used, but it shows. So he's like, talking to the attorney, "Well, should I take the test?" He's like, "Well, should I take the breath test or should I do a different test?" And he's like, all of a sudden, "What if something shows up in the blood test that I don't want to know about?" That loud. And I just went, "Oh, this is a slam dunk." Took the breath test, hauled him to jail. It was his third DWI. So we're taking his truck. We're taking everything.
Wow.
He comes back after he got released. He says, "You know what? I treated you like shit. And you laughed and you had fun with it. I apologize.
Whoa.
You were just doing your job."
No.
So I don't know if that's really the funniest I've ever had, but every time I arrest somebody or go through that stuff, it's like, I think of that guy because it was just hilarious. The whole night was hilarious. And
the humility though to come back and people, I have found that often people will have that clarity when they're not drunk.
Yeah.
And there's some people, I'm sure, Derrick, you have the same kind of friends where the phone will ring and based on what time they're calling, you're like, "I'm not picking up that because that's just going to be a pointless conversation.
We'd have frequent flyers, we call them, that would call for the dumbest stuff ever. One gal, she was lost her mind and lost her family, and she'd call once a week to have welfare checks on her grown children. It's like, we can't do that. They're 18 years old. We can't do that. "Well, I'm going to report you to the FBI.
Oh, Jesus.
That makes sense.
Go ahead. It really does.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, but it was just, what do you do?
My second favorite episode of Cops was, and every time I do local TV or radio in Indianapolis, I always make an announcement about this guy and say, "Hey, if that was you that I saw in Cops, I'm a huge fan of yours and I want to meet you. So please, I'll give you as many tickets as you want. Reach out to me." It was an episode that they said, we're responding to a robbery that took place at this shopping center. They pull to the back end of the strip mall and there's a white guy, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", maybe 200 something pounds. He's a nerd and skinny guy, and he's on the curb crying, and the officer says, "Sir, was that you that made the call?" And he says, "That was me." and then they go, "Sir, it's okay. Just tell us what happened." And he goes, "I was locking up for work, and this gentleman came up to me, and I didn't even see him. He said, and forgive my language, but he said, 'Give me your goddamn money.'" That's what he said to me. And I said, "Sir, I don't want no problems." And then that other gentleman over there, they pan out to the parking lot and there is a dude laying on the ground. You know those concrete slabs that you park your tires against in a parking lot?
Yeah.
He's in between two of those, like in a pool of blood. And he goes, that gentleman over there walking behind me, he grabbed me, and I'm a 5th degree black belt, okay?
Oh, God.
And as soon as he touched me, I just and they go, sir, what happened? And he said, basically, I kicked the shit out of everybody. I feel terrible. I didn't want no problems. And they said, are you okay? And he said, I am fine. I'm fine. I'm going to need some new shoes. They pan down. His shoes, his sneakers are so saturated in blood
My God.
that every time he shifts his body weight from his left foot to the right foot, his sneakers are squishing out blood. And I remember being on the edge of my bed with a glass of chocolate milk watching it. And my girlfriend was like in bed reading. And I was like, babe, are you watching this? And she goes, I'm reading. And I was like, bitch.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy, like, I was so inspired. Like, I wanted to see like a spinoff. I want to drop that guy into Bad Neighbor. This guy was a perfect human being. He doesn't want any problems. He just wants to go about his life. He's a good guy. But if you fuck with him, he will hospitalize you. He'll absolutely and then he'll feel so bad about it.
You'll need counseling.
He'll come to your hospital room with flowers and say, why'd you make me beat the shit out of you? I didn't want any problems.
Oh,
I
man.
just love that guy.
That's hilarious.
You know what I'm going to do with this episode? I'm gonna send it out to everybody and say, if you think you're funny and you want to be a comedian someday, understand that these two guys never met.
Yeah.
Right? I've never met Derrick. You never met Derrick. None of us have.
Mm-mm.
This is one of the funniest damn shows. I mean, this is what real comedians do. And if you think you can be a comedian, you better be able to do this, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with a love of
No
stand-up
question.
comedy. And
Yep.
I genuinely love it. I mean, if I have free nights while I'm in a town, I'll always go to open mics. I still love going to open mics. And do you check in with open mics and stuff?
Absolutely. If I get some time, I mean, I'm on a tight schedule, but there's still some magic in there. It's the only room where you can send some bad zingers out there and get some feedback and feel comfortable. It's a safe place, you know.
I have a great follow-up question for Derrick, because
Yeah.
I know Derrick's name because he's popping up everywhere I go. I see Derrick's name on the schedule everywhere. How often do you go into a town and you go, oh man, there's an open mic? You go in and you go, hey, I'm Derrick. I'd like to do a set, and they don't know who you are. How do you handle that?
Well, I don't take it personal, but I do make sure that you know, I'm pretty competitive.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go on stage and I'm gonna flip the room upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And but I don't take it personal to them, but I'm one of those guys where it's helped me in comedy because comedy's not fair. And you're going to get your feelings hurt a lot. And it doesn't make me go away. It makes me want revenge. It puts a chip on my shoulder. It pisses me off, you know? And so that works to my advantage. So to the guy that would say that to me at the mic, it would be nothing personal. But the show, what I was going to do is now changed a little bit. I probably was going to work on absolutely brand new stuff. So now I might hit him with, you know, something a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, I mean, I love to hear you talk about being in love with comedy. You've been around forever and been killing it for a long time, and you still feel that way. It's an inspiration to me. I've been doing it for 12 years. I still love it. I mean, for me, it's the only thing that I've ever been decent at. You know, I mean, I barely made it out of school. My day jobs were just meetings with managers about how you can't act this way.
We got so much in common because I had my toes against the Chiefs desk more times than I can.
Yeah. So being able to get on stage and lose my mind and get paid for it and have somebody buy a koozie because they enjoyed it even more it makes me feel lucky. But I do have to hit the road. I got to get out of here. Thank y'all so much for having me. this was really a treat, a surprise. I didn't know what I was getting into, and y'all had no idea when you woke up this morning. You had another guest coming on, so it worked out for all of us. But yeah, so nice to meet y'all.
Derek, when you're walking out, do you mind if I get your number?
Oh,
just
yeah,
type
absolutely.
that in there so I can text you so we
sure.
can stay in touch. I asked Derek about that because people, I love that comedians have that love of stand-up. They'll still go and hit open mics and stuff. I was in a tiny town in Washington State, and a friend of mine was in the same town at an arena opening for Brian, why am I spacing on his last name? Legendary comedian, squeaky clean comedian. Why am I spacing on his last name? He lives in Vegas now. I'm picturing his face. Brian Regan.
Oh, Brian Regan. Yeah,
Brian Regan was in that town headlining an arena, and my buddy introduced me to Brian. And I said, "Yeah, I'm a comedian. I'm performing at a casino this weekend." All right, I'll shoot you a text. And and then he said, he goes, "Yeah, after this, I'm going to do a set tonight." And I go, "A set?" I go, "There's no place doing comedy." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm doing a set at a place called Jack something." And I go, "Jack Diddley's?" And he goes, "Jack Diddley's, yeah." He goes, "As soon as I get off stage in this arena, I'm going to go to this place." Jack Diddley's ended up closing because a bouncer killed an audience member in that place like a few months later. And the next time I see Brian Regan, I run into him in another city, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm a comedian. You did a set after your arena show." And I found out from friends of mine that know you that apparently it's a thing you like to do. You still like to go to comedy clubs and do sets. Have you ever walked into a comedy club and not been recognized? And he goes, "All the time." He goes, "It just happened to me in Denver." He performed at the arena where the Denver Nuggets play.
Oh, wow.
And he sold it out. And then he went to Comedy Works in downtown.
That's my home club.
Denver. And he walks in and he sees a girl behind the front counter and he goes, "Hi, Brian Regan. I want to jump on stage tonight." And the girl goes, "Oh, yeah, you have to sign up online to do that." And he goes, this is the greatest line. He goes, "Can you get a hold of anyone? Just anybody. Just anybody." And she goes, "Okay, yeah, just tell him Brian Regan's here." And she goes, "Okay." And then when she came back, she's like, "Oh my God, I am so sorry." Goes, it's okay. But I love that line. "Can you get a hold of anyone but you? Anyone but you?"
Yeah.
That guy, one of the greatest comedians who ever lived. And I love him. So Derrick Stroup this weekend performing at
Thank y'all again for having me. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
House of Comedy.
House of Comedy.
Absolutely.
Tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday.
That's right.
And I will be performing at New Hope Cinema's cinemagrill.com.
And I will close the show by saying this. I am one of the luckiest guys in the world because things like this happen to me. And I just, man, if you can't be that funny, stay the hell out of comedy.
There you go.
That'll do it. We'll talk to you next week.
Tom, thanks for being nice to me.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Derrick.
Reminds me of this was before. Every time I hear the singing, reminds me how you talking.